Morning Joe, the shooting was on Saturday. They pulled the show off the air Monday, did not air it because they were afraid that someone on the show would say something untoward.
Have they not watched the show for the past 8 years?
Why? What are they saying on
That was political commentator Bill Maher facing sharp pushback from Congressman Byron Donalds over what many conservatives describe as deep-rooted bias in establishment media. The exchange exposed a widening divide in how media credibility is viewed today. According to Donalds, legacy outlets have shifted dramatically, particularly in their coverage of Donald Trump. Maher seemed surprised by just how aggressive and openly partisan some network personalities have become. Critics argue that Maher is years behind in recognizing how far segments of his own political side have moved. Programs like Morning Joe, hosted by Joe Scarborough and Mika Brzezinski, were specifically highlighted as examples of commentary that critics believe has crossed from analysis into activism. For those on the right, the issue is no longer subtle media bias but open ideological warfare presented as journalism.
Your thoughts, panel, on NBC pulling Morning Joe, from the air on
Thank God, no.
I thought we were in agreement now. I thought we were like,
Why?
I thought we came together on that point. That's what I thought.
Why? We don't like Morning Joe?
No, I don't.
Well, if people don't know what, I was shocked at this story too. If people don't know what this is. Morning Joe, the shooting was on Saturday. They pulled the show off the air Monday, did not air it because they were afraid that someone on the show would say something untoward.
Have they not watched the show for the past 8 years?
Why? What are they saying on that show?
What do they say about Trump?
Oh, about Trump, but yeah.
Well, they say everything.
But that you can't
Trump.
trust your journalists?
Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
I mean, this would be like if Walter Cronkite, the day of the Kennedy assassination, the Flash from Dallas, I shouldn't really say anything. Something happened there. That you can't trust. How could the people trust in these journalists if the network itself can't trust them to go on the air and not f*** it up?
Maher's core mistake, according to critics, is assuming that networks such as MSNBC are primarily focused on traditional journalism. He referenced legendary broadcaster Walter Cronkite, suggesting that even if Cronkite leaned liberal, his mission was to deliver facts, not fuel outrage. But opponents argue that the modern media environment is entirely different. They claim Joe Scarborough's role today is not comparable to Cronkite's. Instead of operating as a measured news anchor, Scarborough is seen by critics as a combative political commentator whose focus centers heavily on opposing Donald Trump. Rather than acting as a neutral instrument, they argue he functions as a rallying voice for Democratic viewers, energizing, amplifying, and sustaining outrage. In that view, nuance takes a back seat to intensity, and daily coverage becomes less about informing and more about mobilizing.
Also, Morning Joe.
You can't be respectful?
No, it doesn't make sense. It really, I make jokes about it, but it really doesn't make sense. It's not like Morning Joe is more partisan than the late night MSNBC lineup. That's just as partisan in terms of where their point of view, where they're coming from. So I don't know why they wouldn't trust that, okay. And yet they can have.
Now the show's on for me in the middle of the night.
Right.
So I'm not going to say I see it a lot.
Right.
Okay. It's on at like 6 a.m. I'm barely getting to sleep. What? I'm a comedian. This is the life we live. Okay.
That's true.
But Joe was like you. A congressman from Florida, Republican congressman from Florida. I don't think he's a crazy person. I think he's a smart guy. I like him. He's been on this show, been on his show. I'd like to hear what he has to say. And I
don't know what their decision, what their thing was.
Has Joe become that far left
I don't think so.
in your view?
He's that anti-Trump though.
No, but even if he has,
who
cares? He's not some crazy person that
right.
you suddenly realize, who's this crazy person we have on TV? Well, you're the one that put him on. Why? You're just realizing this person shouldn't be on television?
If NBC can't trust the show going on, it's because they already know that the show has a very strong anti-Trump viewpoint. And so maybe they said, you know what, we can't take a chance. I don't want to speak for them.
No,
I don't know.
That's exactly what it sounds like. I just think it's ridiculous.
The exchange also revealed what critics believe is Maher's outdated perception of certain media figures. He appeared to remember Joe Scarborough as a relatively balanced center-right personality from years past. However, many conservatives argue that Scarborough and Mika Brzezinski have become consistently hostile toward Trump since 2016, adopting a tone they view as relentless and uncompromising. At the same time, Maher acknowledged something notable. He criticized MSNBC for appearing hypocritical. If networks expect audiences to trust their reporting, critics argue they must demonstrate internal consistency and credibility. When viewers perceive open partisanship, that trust erodes quickly. The larger question remains unresolved. Is modern cable news still journalism first, or political advocacy wrapped in news formatting? And if critics believe programs like Morning Joe blur that line, why does MSNBC continue to elevate them as flagship content? What do you think? Has cable news crossed from reporting into activism? Share your thoughts below. And if you enjoyed this breakdown, be sure to like and subscribe.